The defense industry's startups are now absolutely racing to get rich off of the Trump administration's military buildup off the coast of Venezuela. That's not a good sign, because when moneyed interests are aching for war because they're looking to profit off of it, chances are they're gonna get what they want. And so far, that has been the case. So let's get to some of the details here, because Mark Cancian, who is a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, and a retired Marine colonel, stated simply, and this is a direct quote, hold on to your butts, "There's priority and money for business that's good." He's talking about Venezuela. It's upward of 80 people have been killed as a result of the US striking these like random fishing boats that don't even have the capacity to get to the United States, but they're being, labeled narco traffickers, narco terrorists, drug boats that are trying to get dangerous drugs into the United States. You want to know what Venezuela is responsible for when it comes to the drug trade in the US? Cocaine. Okay, what percentage of the cocaine trade in the US is Venezuela responsible for? 10%. This is not about countering drugs that are being trafficked in the US. Let's be absolutely clear about that. Now, Aubrey Maines, who's a senior director at the Venevar Labs, that's a startup that provides intelligence to national security agencies, also opined on this ongoing, I don't even want to call it a war, because Venezuela isn't fighting back. There's no war. The US is just striking random fishing boats and engaging in a military buildup. But here's what Aubrey Maines had to say about it. The counter-narcotics mission has already opened new, unanticipated revenue lines. They just say it out loud. Okay, they just say it out loud. It's amazing. Venevar Labs, by the way, uses AI to locate transnational criminal organizations and China-based suppliers. And what we're doing right now in the Caribbean has nothing to do with China, which actually provides, the material for the fentanyl, which then gets smuggled into the United States through Mexico. That's the reality of the situation. And fentanyl is the top reason why drug overdose deaths are happening in the United States. The second drug that is killing Americans is meth, which is also smuggled through Mexico. So, her connection to China suppliers, or at least identifying the China suppliers, has nothing to do with her cheerleading for what's happening in the Caribbean right now and the military buildup off the coast of Venezuela. They also, by the way, use AI technology to estimate public support for the Trump administration's attacks on alleged drug boats. But I will say this real quick. We're gonna go to a CBS and YouGov news poll. We're not gonna go to any of her data, but is anyone really gonna trust her data? Think about that. Oh, we provide, AI technology that helps to estimate public support for the military operations that my company is profiting off of. Yeah, you could take that data and shove it. I mean, there's a conflict of interest here. Trump shouldn't trust it at all, but I'm sure that he will. Because Trump will trust anything that bolsters what he already wants to hear or already wants to believe. So let's go to this poll from CBS News and YouGov. So it asks whether Americans favor, using military force to attack boats suspected, not proven, but suspected of bringing drugs into the United States. The majority, 53% approve, 47% disapprove, because it's 2003 all over again, and people will believe anything. And I don't know, at what point the United States is going to just completely crumble and fall, but the continuation of neocon type foreign policies, where we do preemptive wars and we strike random fishing boats that we suspect of trafficking drugs, that is going to crush this country. We're already $39 trillion in debt. We can't afford this. We shouldn't be doing this, but we're going to do it anyway. And by the way, it's going to do nothing to help the very real situation on the ground here in the US of people struggling with drug addiction and in many cases dying as a result of that drug addiction. It'd be really nice if maybe Congress spent a little bit of time allocating funds for rehabilitation centers, because I know that there are a lot of people struggling with drug addiction who desperately want to go through detox, they want to get rehab, but it's very expensive. And in blue states, I mean, I think the intentions were well-meaning, but blue states have really moved away from rehab. And instead of funding that, they've focused on so-called harm reduction. And I don't think that it has worked. I think a lot of people who want to go to rehab instead are having trouble affording it for obvious reasons. So there needs to be a little more support in that area. But obviously, Congress is useless. And right now, they're just finally realizing that they ceded a lot of power to the executive branch, and they're trying to figure out if there's a way to get it back. But we'll see. I mean, I doubt it. An overwhelming majority of Americans want the Trump administration to show evidence that the boats really are being used for smuggling drugs into America. So 75% say they want to see the evidence. 25% say they don't. I don't care. Nah, I don't want to see the evidence. It's okay. Just, strike the boats. Who cares? But luckily, 75% do want to see the evidence. We haven't seen that evidence yet, and likely we'll never see that evidence. So the Trump administration, again, has refused to show us what the Pentagon has discovered about these boats. Like, what's the justification for striking them? Now, other startups involved with the buildup in the Caribbean include Shield AI and Overwatch Imaging. So both of them specialize in drone technology for surveillance. The US government has billions of dollars to throw at these startups. So the president's spending bill in July, for instance, gave the Department of Homeland Security an extra $165 billion over the next decade, including $6 billion to expand US-Mexico border security technology, such as surveillance. I thought, if you're spending all this money to secure the border, why are we so worried about these tiny little fishing boats that don't even have the capacity to reach the United States? Weird. It also gave the Pentagon an additional $1 billion for anti-drug and border missions. And then finally, the Coast Guard received $4 billion more for cutters to patrol open waters and $350 million for robotics and autonomous systems. And we all know that money goes to, private military contractors, weapons manufacturers, tech companies that develop the AI technology. That's why the United States has been in perpetual war. I mean, I don't think most Americans know we've been bombing the crap out of Somalia for decades. It's slowed down a little bit under the Biden administration, but Trump has really ramped it up. So Palantir CEO Alex Karp would not confirm or deny whether his company was involved with Latin American military operations, but instead he stated, "If we are involved, I am very proud." I'm sure you are, Alex. I'm sure you are. "I believe that fentanyl is a scourge on the working class of America." Oh, Alex Karp, real concerned about working class Americans, so concerned that he's lying to our faces about how these attacks on fishing boats have to do with fentanyl. They have nothing to do with fighting back against the fentanyl trade. He's sick. He really is. Let me give you the rest of his statement. "Scourge was affecting non-working class." I'm sorry. Okay, "If we are involved, I'm very proud. I believe that fentanyl is a scourge on the working class of America, and that if this scourge was affecting non-working class people, we would use extreme violence. And so I support what they're doing." I love that he's trying to use like class-based messaging to sell us on something that he very clearly is looking to profit off of. I mean, he certainly profited off of the atrocities and mass slaughter campaign that's been carried out in Gaza. So far, we've mostly focused on surveillance or AI companies, but we haven't even touched the biggest 5 military contractors, the ones we talk about often on the show: Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, RTX, and Boeing. Military contractors collect an enormous amount of money from the government. Like, for instance, between 2020 and 2024, 54% of the Pentagon's discretionary spending went to military contractors. And a majority of those contracts went to the 5 firms that I just listed. So what are those companies using the money for? Oh, look at that. They're helping the working class. No, they're not. Wrong. Actually, what they're doing is they're buying our politicians and undermining our democratic process, because our politicians clearly do not care about us. They are far more concerned about the desires and fantasies of their donors. So the arms industry spent nearly $151 million on lobbying and over $43 million on political contributions in 2024 alone. So they profit off of war, and then they use a chunk of those profits to buy our politicians to egg on more war. And military contractors increased cash paid to their shareholders by 73% from 2010 to 2019 versus the year 2000 to 2009, all while decreasing spending on research and development and capital investment, which I'm okay with, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I'm not okay with them, engaging in war profiteering, but I think the area of innovation that we can do less with is the war machine that we've been dealing with for many, many decades now.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.